Hello guys.
Hello, welcome back. This is week number 24 and we are on lesson number 4, which is why are animals important to nature?
So do now. Let's watch a video and then see how important animals that it is.
And keep a watch for it, take notes down and write down the names of the animals you see in this video and what they do, because it'll help you for the thinking tool.
Human beings may be the most intelligent creatures on Earth, but did you know that we are reliant on a number of animals which we would find it hard to live without?
Amazing!
Number 5. Earthworms. These often forgotten creatures are kings of the soil. Earthworms construct burrows in the earth, which act as air spaces, allowing oxygen and water to enter. This is key to the survival of other soil-dwelling invertebrates and is important for plant roots. Even just the presence of earthworms in a habitat improves biodiversity. Where there are lots of earthworms, bacteria and fungi follow. Although this might sound like a bad thing, these organisms help to break down nutrients and make them available to plants. Earthworms act as nature's plows, mixing up the layers and spreading nutrients, improving overall soil fertility. Even their feces are important, as it helps to give the soil a good crumb-like structure. Number 4. Ants. With over 12,000 species of ants, we are extremely reliant on these little buggers in terms of decomposition. Just like earthworms, ants help turn up soil when they dig tunnels, but they also have other important roles. During this process, the ants aerate the soil, and this helps recycle the nutrients found in the soil, which is important for plants to grow, which we human beings eat. They also transport seeds to nutrient-rich nests where plants can grow safely. Scientifically, ants are known to increase the yield of wheat crop, coffee, and even chocolate. Without these ants, it would be difficult to get a steady supply of our morning coffee, chocolate for dessert, and bread for breakfast. To top that off, ants eat pests. Ants like to eat fleas, flies, larvae, and bedbugs, all of which can host parasites that are harmful to humans. In addition to that, plants balance the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide on Earth. As humans breathe out carbon dioxide, plants turn it into oxygen which we can breathe again. Number 3. Plankton. It's a common misconception that plankton are only plants, but the term actually refers to any living organism underneath the water that is virtually incapable of moving on its own. Why are plankton important? Because they're the reason we can all breathe. Through photosynthesis and some healthy appetites, both phytoplankton and zooplankton play an important role in converting energy into oxygen and distributing it around the world. Take a deep breath and say thank you, because plankton are responsible for half the Earth's oxygen. Number 2. Bats. Creepy as they may seem, bats are real superheroes for life. Bats will never harm humans unless threatened. With over 1,200 species of bats, we are assured that our crops are protected from pests year in and year out. Bats eat millions of pest insects that can destroy our crops. This also means that we have lesser need for pesticides, which are harmful chemicals that can cause cancer. Bats also kill insects that carry diseases, such as mosquitoes. Did you know that a bat can consume up to 1,000 mosquitoes an hour? Now that would save us from dengue fever and malaria. Bats are also great pollinators. Bats carry pollen when they drink nectar from flowers, and as they travel far distances, they also have another environmental advantage. Bat droppings, especially from fruitivorous bats, have the significant role of seed dispersal, as unlike any other seed-dispersing animal, bats travel far distances, helping plants grow and survive in a variety of locations. Number 1. Bees. A bee sting hurts for sure, but did you know that without bees, human beings would not be able to survive? There are over 20,000 known species of bees, and all of them do one thing that's important to us: produce food. In fact, even Albert Einstein once remarked that if bees were to disappear off the face of the Earth tomorrow, man would only have 4 more years left to live. Although scientists no longer believe the outlook is so grave, bees are certainly one of the most important species on the planet. Bees produce honey, an essential source of nutrients and sugar for mankind. But more importantly, bees are the world's most effective and greatest pollinators. Around 80% of American crops are said to be totally dependent on pollination by bees, and the picture is similar worldwide. Pollination is the process by which pollen is transferred from a plant's male part to another plant's female part. Without this, plants could not reproduce, and without plants to eat, animals will die. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Okay, so today we will learn about how animals are important to nature, to be able to realize the importance of animals on the environment and the effects of natural disaster and geohazard, and right to give data about themselves, their friends, and the environment around them. Then create works of visual art in the form of diagrams to convey thoughts or stories about various incidents.
Okay, vocabulary. So number one, a keystone. Keystone. So this is to describe the main thing. So the keystone of education, the keystone of the fish.
Second is symbiosis. So you learned symbiosis in more detail in the next slide, but it basically means when two parties help each other out. Okay? So if you give your friend a pencil and your friend gives you back an eraser, then both of you are in a symbiotic relationship. So you help each other out.
Okay, number three, vital. Vital, it's an adjective. It's to say it's something very important. So it's vital to eat. It's vital to drink. So it's something that we need to have it.
Number four is species. So each animal is a different species. Okay, so human beings are a species. The cat is a species. The dog is a species. So it's basically the classification of any living thing that you can see.
Okay, and the last one, amphibian. That's also like a part of a species. So it's like the mammals and others kind of animals, amphibian. We will see this also in the next slides.
Okay, so this is symbiosis in more detail. So it is the interaction between two different organisms living in close physical association, typical to the advantage of both. Okay, so if you look here, the bee gets pollen, the bee gets nectar from the flowers, and the bee helps the flowers in pollination. Same with the birds. And then you have the fish, which lives in the sea anemone. So the sea anemone gives the fish a house, and the fish helps the sea anemone clean bacteria. Okay, so it's a symbiotic relationship.
Okay. Yeah, how are large animals important to nature? So elephants are very important for us. Here you see already the picture. He's eating and then food. And you see here the seed is growing. So you will see now why it's important to have big animals like elephants.
So Jonas and I were discussing the other day, why is it even important to protect large animals like pandas and elephants and orangutans? Besides the fact that they're really cute, I mean, does the ecosystem they live in really need them? And why should we care? First, let's just get really specific. Let's talk about elephants. And if we're going to do that, we need to start with their ecosystem. Ecosystems can be thought of as a complex machine that performs functions that are vital for us. Forests and grasslands cool the planet, clean our air, and create rain clouds, right? These are important for us and for the animals in them. And now I'm hoping that at least you can agree on that, right? Now the animals in them don't just occupy their place in the ecosystem like random actors on a stage. No, the whole ecosystem needs them as much as they need it. Probably heard people say that, right? So let me make my case for the elephant. Elephants are the largest mammals in Asia and Africa, and because of this, they actually play a really unique and often irreplaceable role in their ecosystem. And because I know the Asian elephant better, let's look specifically at the Asian elephant. First, not only do a lot of these elephants dig wells to get mineral-rich water, but they also leave behind a lot of footprints, which can fill with water. And this helps other small animals to access the same scarce resources. At the same time, these actions create microhabitats for lots of other creatures, like frogs, which can lay eggs in the water. And really, a single elephant footprint can eventually turn into a miniature world full of life. Of course, elephants must eat. They eat a lot. An elephant can eat just about any plant, even ones with thorns. It can strip the bark off a tree, which eventually might kill the tree. And at first this might sound really destructive and bad, but realize that a dead tree also makes a good home for other animals, like, say, birds that like to nest in the hollows. And because of their size and strength, elephants make short work of large fruits with shells that are difficult to crack. And other animals benefit from the fruits that drop on the ground as the elephants are foraging. And finally, the plants themselves benefit because, you see, elephants are gardeners. So here's the thing, without these elephants doing their thing in the environment, a lot of these other animals would not survive. Who are we to decide which animals should be in the ecosystem and which ones shouldn't? So take out the elephant and you lose just a lot of individual species, smaller species that depend on these elephants for the changes, more so than you might if you took out just hypothetically one small animal. And if we take it one step further, if we're actually comparing a native ecosystem to one that's either bulldozed for development, either urban or rural, say it's farming, then you're losing a lot of ecosystem services as well. The clean water that we drink and the air that we breathe are tied to that functioning ecosystem. So in the end, we all depend on those ecosystems to be healthy and vital. And getting back to the elephants, the native ecosystems where elephants are found depend on the elephant. So it's all kind of a cycle, right? I don't know if I made my case for the elephant. I think the elephant's just a really easy one. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you have any other reasons why we need to keep these big predators, big elephants, big herbivores, big animals in our ecosystem? All right.
Hey, welcome back from the video. So now that we saw what large animals can do, here are some small animals. And in this slide, you see how small animals are important to nature. So every little animal within the ecosystem has a vital role in the health of the planet.
So yeah, every little animal within an ecosystem has vital role in the health of the planet. If you see here on the picture, like even a mosquito is very important for us. Even birds, butterflies, so they make like soil. If you have a garden, you have many insects, it's a good sign. It means the soil is in good health. You pollinate the flowers, especially like bees and butterflies. Spread seeds, but it's also like bigger animals and small animals like birds. Recycle nutrition back into the soil, and then provide food for larger animals.
Okay, so just a quick word on pollination. Pollinate the flowers means the flower becomes a fruit. Okay, so before the flower becomes a fruit, the bird and the bee goes to the flower, takes the yellow particle and gives it to another flower, and so it becomes a fruit. Okay. So here we have the keystone species. Okay, so in the vocabulary, you read a little bit about keystone. So a keystone species is any animal that has a big effect on its ecosystem. Okay, so the animal on the right hand side is actually a beaver. It sometimes looks like an otter, but they're two different animals, but they do the same thing. They use soil and sticks and small tree portions to make dams. And by making dams and cutting down trees with their teeth, they improve the ecosystem, improve the quality of water in the rivers, and they provide food and homes for fish, birds, insects, and amphibians.
So in the 80s, the American beaver nearly went extinct because its fur was so valuable to hunters. What do you think would happen to the beaver's ecosystem if it did go extinct? What do you think? So answer this on your notebook and think about it, what life will be without beaver.
Okay, so here you have an example of the kind of dam that beavers make. And as you can see, because of the dam, the water stops flowing fast. So you see that it creates a lot of population in the water. There's increased fish population, there is a wetland ecosystem, and also some birds are able to make nests in and around that ecosystem. So beavers are very, very important for the entire slow river ecosystem.
Okay, when the keystone sea otter is removed, sea urchins overgraze kelp and destroy the kelp forest community. So you have here the diagram, and you see here the otter, sea otter with the keystone species, kelp, so it's the seaweed. You need a sea urchin. And here, without sea otter, it will be destroyed. So the ecosystem will not be without otter.
Okay, and the kelp, if the kelp is destroyed, then a lot of small fish eat the kelp. They eat seaweed. So that is why the keystone species is so important to keep balance.
Okay, here the large predator. So in 1991, wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park in the USA. And after a short amount of time, it was found that the wolves had actually changed the shape of the rivers. So how is it possible? So watch the video and see how it is possible to change the shape of the river.
Okay, so take a look. Think before we watch the video. Just think about how the wolf would have changed the ecosystem. What did the wolf eat? And yeah, we'll answer that question on the other side of this video. So as you can see, without the wolf, there was a lot of deer, and the deer was eating up all the green plants. So the wolf ate the deer, and it kept the population of the deer in check. So as a result, there were more and more trees, there was more vegetation, and that actually caused the river to change shape as well. Okay, so just the introduction of wolves made all this possible.
Okay, so here also whales, they are part of the climate change. They can help us. Now you will see why they are important for us. And they are very big, and you will see how important it is for us.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. We all know that whales eat fish and krill, and some people, certain politicians in Japan for instance, have argued that killing whales is good for human beings, as it boosts the food available for us to eat. And so you would think. But as the great whales declined, so did the numbers of fish and krill. It seems counterintuitive. Surely their numbers would rise as their major predators disappeared. But it now turns out that whales not only eat these animals, they also keep them alive. In fact, they help to sustain the entire living system of the ocean. Whales feed at depth in waters that are often pitch dark, and then they return to the surface, to the photic zone, where there's enough light for photosynthesis to happen. There they release what biologists call fecal plumes, vast outpourings of poo, poonamis. These plumes are rich in iron and nitrogen, nutrients which are often very scarce in the surface waters. And these nutrients fertilize the plant plankton that lives in the only place where plants can survive, the photic zone. Fertilizing the surface waters isn't the only thing the whales do. By plunging up and down through the water column, they also keep kicking the plankton back up into the photic zone, giving it more time to reproduce before it sinks into the abyss. Even today, though whale populations have been greatly reduced, the vertical mixing of water caused by movements of animals up and down through the column of the oceans is astonishingly roughly the same as the amount of mixing caused by all the world's wind and waves and tides. More plant plankton means more animal plankton, on which the larger creatures then feed. In other words, more whales means more fish and krill. But the story doesn't end here, because plant plankton not only feeds the animals of the sea, it also absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. When eventually it sinks to the ocean floor, it takes this carbon out of circulation down to a place where it remains for thousands of years. The more whales there are, the more plankton there is. The more plankton there is, the more carbon is drawn out of the air. When whales were at their historical populations, before great numbers of them were killed, it seems that they might have been responsible for removing tens of millions of tons of carbon from the atmosphere every year. Whales change the climate. The return of the great whales, if they're allowed to recover, could be seen as a benign form of geoengineering. It could undo some of the damage we've done, both to the living systems of the sea and to the atmosphere.
Okay, welcome back from the video. So this is the final thinking tool. So you have to make a diagram and tell us why are animals important to nature. So think about all the videos you saw, think about all the written material on the slides, and tell us how large animals are important, keystone species, insects, how do they all help. And finally, a little bit of thinking for you. What are the effects of natural disasters on animals? Okay, so if you have an earthquake, or if you have a fire in the forest, or if you have a tsunami, how does it affect the animals? So write that down on an A4 size paper.
A diagram with many animals in the jungle. Then write everything down on your notebook, what you learned from today. And don't forget to write the meaning in English and in Thai.
Okay. And finally, don't forget the thinking tool, which is a diagram as to why are animals important to nature. Okay, so we'll see you in the next slide tomorrow. So,
see you.
Yeah, bye-bye.